A declassified intelligence file, a sprawling military complex near a tense border, and a blueprint stretching over 5 decades, all suggest the world is now witnessing a strategic chess game unlike any before. In early 2018, as the global balance fractured, the United States made a jarring announcement. It wanted India not merely as a partner, but as a global leader, but this was not diplomacy. It was a signal flare. A new era of rivalry had begun. China's next moves became clearer. Military towns sprang up across the Himalayas, bunkers burrowed deep underground, and a doctrine emerged, named ominously after fingers of a hand, but meant to squeeze with surgical precision. Each finger was countered not by soldiers, but by helipads, airstrips, and fortified villages. Beijing advanced not through war, but through an unrelenting, silent pressure campaign along India's northern frontier. Behind the scenes, a single question loomed unanswered: is this the calm before a global quake or the beginning of a war fought without bullets? The geopolitical map is shifting under a mask of peace. Why might India be the hinge of tomorrow's world order? In February 2018, just a year after Donald Trump entered the White House, Washington issued a stunning declaration. It did not call India a partner or an ally, but envisioned it as a superpower. Prime Minister Narendra Modi offered only a cryptic response: "I look forward to what lies ahead." But by 2021, the truth emerged. A classified CIA document named the U.S. Strategic Framework for the Indo-Pacific was declassified. Page 5 said it plainly: America wanted India to lead globally, and it would do whatever it takes to make that happen. It sounded surreal, until the proof surfaced. So the question shifted. Why? The U.S. had once backed Pakistan during its conflicts with India. It had distrusted India's ties with Moscow. Washington was even suspected of involvement in the mysterious deaths of Indian nuclear pioneer Dr. Muhammad Zahagi Baba and former Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. What triggered such a stunning reversal? Was it merely to check China? Or is there more to the story? The answer may lie in leaked images from China. Just 32 kilometers from Beijing, a massive military metropolis now sprawls across 6 square kilometers. That's 25 times the size of the Pentagon. This is no base, it's a military city. And it's not alone. Across the Himalayan border, China has quietly erected smaller yet sophisticated military hubs, only a few kilometers from Indian soil. These aren't mere checkpoints, they include airfields, helipads, and sealed logistics centers. In August 2023, leaked satellite images from Aksai Chin revealed a surge of new Chinese military outposts in disputed territories. More than barracks, these featured underground bunkers, vast arms depots, and concealed missile silos. At that point, China had established 37 such fortified military zones, forming a tight noose around India. Many of them are fully operational. Airports like Singapore, Persia and Nanjing give Chinese jets the power to strike Indian territory in mere minutes. A silent war is being architected, city by city, runway by runway, like daggers driven into the Himalayas side. Why does this intelligence matter so much to India? Because the gap between Chinese bases and India's key cities is alarmingly short, meaning airstrikes could come at any moment. Even worse, if India hits back, its efforts might be futile. China's bunkers are deeply fortified, built to absorb both aerial bombardments and missile attacks. So the deeper mystery is, why is China pushing this hard? It already commands the world's largest military, owns the first operational hypersonic missile, commands top-tier intercontinental weapons, and maintains heavyweight warships and global bases. Why raise the stakes further? Why does China, already a global military titan, still hunger for more? The root lies in the elusive 5 fingers and the palm strategy, a long-standing doctrine aimed at subduing the Himalayas, the critical frontier dividing Asia's 2 great powers. For China, total dominance over this mountainous spine is not merely a territorial goal, but a strategic imperative to expand southward. This ambition has alarmed the United States, triggering a covert intelligence war that now binds the CIA, India's INAW, and China's cyber warfare divisions in a quiet battle for supremacy. This war does not echo with bombs or gunfire. Instead, encrypted messages and digital intrusions define its front lines. It began as early as the year 1959, when the Soviet Union brokered diplomatic ties between India and China, an effort that collapsed within a few years, spiraling into the border war of 1962. Understanding today's tensions requires revisiting China's post-revolution landscape in 1949. As Mao Zedong established a centralized regime that suffocated religion and erased democracy, Beijing launched assimilation campaigns that shuttered hundreds of mosques across regions like Ningxia and Gansu. The West grew wary of this emerging power, yet India stood apart as the first democracy to recognize Communist China, a goodwill gesture that would later haunt New Delhi. That goodwill has since transformed into a strategic nightmare. Today, India faces violence from the Naxalite insurgency, an extremist group inspired by Maoism and ranked among the world's most dangerous, rivaled only by ISIS, the Taliban, and Boko Haram. Their mission is to dismantle India's government and erect a Maoist state by the year 2050. Ironically, in 1959, Mao sent a telegram to India assuring peace, stating, "How can we wage war on India? The United States is our enemy, India is our friend." This line, once dismissed as benign, now stands as chilling evidence of China's political theater. Was friendship ever real? Perhaps outwardly, but behind the curtain was a prolonged, silent duel of strategic minds. Mao, who proclaimed India a friend, also called Tibet China's severed arm, and declared Ladakh, Nepal, Sikkim, Bhutan, and Arunachal Pradesh the Five Fingers to be reclaimed. This wasn't mere rhetoric. It was the ideological spine of China's geopolitical push, a doctrine now fueling Himalayan hostilities. The friendship Mao feigned was, in truth, orchestrated under pressure from Moscow. According to declassified reports cited by the Hindustan Times, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev had pressed Mao to maintain harmony with India to preserve socialist unity against the West. Mao had no choice but to wear a diplomatic mask. By 1960, ideological fractures between China and the Soviet Union shattered the facade. Relations with India soured rapidly, culminating in the 1962 border war. That year, while the slogan Hindi Chini Bye Bye still echoed faintly, China launched a full-scale offensive into northeastern India, catching Indian forces off guard. Within weeks, India had lost control of Aksai Chin, a pivotal section of Ladakh that once served as a defensive buffer. In the aftermath, the fraternal slogans fell silent. In their place, a bitter, unyielding standoff emerged, etched into every kilometer of contested Himalayan terrain. To Beijing, the War of 1962 was not merely a military skirmish, it was the opening act in a grander geopolitical play known as the Five Fingers and the Palm Doctrine. With Aksai Chin firmly in hand, one finger has been reclaimed. Now, Arunachal Pradesh becomes the next focal point in China's creeping strategy. Fresh satellite imagery reveals that China has built a village less than 5 kilometers from the line of actual control, along the Sarichu River in disputed territory. In 2019, this was barren land. By November the following year, it had morphed into a functioning settlement, housing potentially hundreds. Whether this is a benign civilian village or a disguised military base is no longer in doubt. The core question is no longer what China plans to do, it is whether India can react in time. Without firing a single bullet, Beijing is redrawing the Himalayan map. Aksai Chin has fallen. Arunachal Pradesh could be next. And now, the third finger is in play, Bhutan. At Khenpasiang, a spiritually vital site for Bhutan's monarchy, China has constructed an illegal urban enclave. It includes a standard military garrison, supply routes, and infrastructure linked directly to Tibet, leaving little doubt about its militarized intent. Bhutan's reaction has been fiercely negative. In protest, Bhutan has almost entirely severed diplomatic ties with China, no embassy, no relations. Yet ironically, rumors circulate about Beijing opening an embassy in Thimphu. It cannot happen without formal diplomatic recognition. Meanwhile, in Nepal, China employs subtler weapons, strategy and capital. Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative disguises geopolitical control as economic development. Beneath its promises of infrastructure lies a debt trap, high-interest loans, impossible repayment, and eventual acquisition. In under 10 years, the initiative has extended Chinese influence into 145 countries, without guns or wars. Consider Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, leased for 99 years when debts became unbearable. Or Pakistan's Gwadar port, key to China's corridor ambitions. Or Djibouti's Doralep port, a strategic link between the Indian Ocean and Africa. Even Nepal has lost roughly 150 hectares of land to China, yet remains diplomatically quiet. The Belt and Road now serves as China's sharpest geopolitical tool. Out of 156 countries globally, 145 are officially involved. These numbers aren't just data points, they represent strategic encroachment and silent influence. This escalating Chinese presence is not only India's headache, it is a direct challenge to the United States. Washington and Beijing differ fundamentally on governance, development paths, and their global roles. The US and Japan respond to China's advances by doubling down on peaceful engagement, yet lasting peace demands military readiness. This principle formed the core of recent joint declarations among American allies. America, a democratic power, contrasts sharply with China's authoritarian centralism. Such divergence makes conflict of interest inevitable. In 2018, China declared it would surpass the US as the top global power by 2049. Thus, a long-term contest has already begun. But we must also recognize an uncomfortable truth: many nations once aided by the United States ended up unstable, dependent, or embroiled in internal strife. Will India repeat this cycle? As the US-China trade war reignites, Asia becomes the battleground of global influence. India must play smart, neither passive nor reckless. Is India just a pawn in a superpower standoff? Is China preparing for maritime conflict not only with the US but with India in the Indian Ocean? Or is this India's moment to rise? With its vast population, stable politics, and key location, India could anchor the new multipolar order. Played right, it could escape the superpower tug-of-war and lead by example. India could prove that strategic independence is possible even amid global chaos. But in this turbulent landscape, China's true face continues to show: cold, duplicitous, and calculating. Not long ago, Beijing preached regional harmony, floated slogans like shared Asian destiny, and championed a 21st century Silk Road. Yet beneath this polished rhetoric lies a campaign of expansion and control. From building artificial islands in the South China Sea, ignoring international law and breaking ASEAN pledges, to declaring unilateral air defense zones over the East China Sea, Beijing repeatedly breaks its own promises. It professes development but ensnares Laos, Cambodia, Nepal, and Sri Lanka in debt. It vows non-interference but props up pro-China parties and meddles in elections across the developing world. Most insidiously, China plays the victim. It accuses America of strategic containment and denounces Western hostility, while aggressively deploying warships, building foreign bases, and flying military jets near neighbors. China paints itself as threatened, to justify its own encroachments. This is no accident, it is a proven model. Charm on the surface, pressure behind the scenes. Friendship in one hand, a dagger in the other. Nowhere is this duplicity clearer than in China's dealings with India. While promising border peace, Beijing quietly sends troops into disputed areas, builds mock civilian villages, installs missiles, then calls for dialogue. The deceit runs deep. Even in trade, China floods Indian markets with underpriced goods, crushes competitors, then dominates supply chains. When challenged, it cries foul, accusing India of protectionism and WTO violations. This is the China the world must confront, no longer a peaceful rising power but a two-faced juggernaut set on regional domination. The real question now is not whether China is duplicitous, but how many more nations will fall prey to its games. India, with its population strength, rising tech sector, and strategic location, stands at a crossroads. It must choose: remain vulnerable to China's charm and threat diplomacy, or seize this moment to shape a new global order, where no nation trades its sovereignty for veiled investment. history has punished those who blindly trusted the Chinese Communist Party. This time, India cannot afford to repeat that mistake.